welcome back, everybody. So we're keeping you updated on the murder case involving 4 University of Idaho students. There is a conflicting report that has surfaced ahead of Bryan Kohberger's status hearing on Thursday. So Shanon Gray, who's the family attorney for victim Kaylee Goncalves, he says that no one knew Kohberger before the murders. But according to last week's probable cause affidavit released by Moscow officials, Kohberger was in the area of the victim's home at least a dozen times before the attack. That information, which was gathered through cell phone data, also puts Kohberger at the crime scene hours after the attack. The 28-year-old was attending Washington State University at the time, less than 10 miles from the Idaho crime scene. Gray has previously said that the victims gave no indication that they were being stalked, but that if any of the families find any information connecting the victims to Kohberger, it will be turned over to police. A time the suspect could have visited the home was during one of their off-campus parties. You see, the home had a reputation as being a party house. In fact, police responded to at least 2 noise complaints just a few months before the murders. Body cam footage captures officers speaking with 3 of the victims, Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogan, and Zana Kernodle, during 2 separate incidents.
Is this your place?
Yeah.
Perfect. You know why we're here?
And I assume noise.
Noise, yeah.
Yeah.
Big speaker right there.
Yeah.
Nothing against having a party. Once neighbors start calling in, then we have an issue.
Fair.
So usually, at least for me, I'll give you a verbal warning.
Okay.
Once I have neighbors calling in, your music's too loud. You're disturbing the peace.
Yeah.
Nothing against having parties. Nothing against having people over who are overage to drink. But again, once we start disturbing the neighbors, then we've got an issue. This is your place, so I'm going to hold you responsible. Because it is your place, you're also responsible for everybody here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to grab your info.
Yeah.
And if I do have to come back here, a $300-some ticket's coming your way.
Okay.
And it only gets more expensive from there. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fair. Absolutely.
All right, Madison. So here's the deal. Okay, they've already said that no one here lives. None of the occupants that live at this address are here right now. So now you have a house full of random people. You need to let them know that the noise needs to come down. Okay. We just received a noise complaint. We want that music turned down. And we don't want to come back again tonight. If we have to come back again tonight, then there's going to be even more problems, okay?
I see both sides. Good. I'm just frustrated. I'm also so sorry once again.
I've never had to deal with this ever.
Yep. And we don't want to start now. I don't ever remember having come here, so I understand you guys are having to get together, but people have a way of taking the invitation and using it as an excuse to get out of control and be loud.
Advantage. Yes,
exactly. Okay.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I just hope for your sake that your friends don't put you in a position where you get the citation and you have to go to court to defend yourself from your friend's behavior. Make sense?
It's just so chilling seeing them there only a few months before this. So I'll bring back in Brian and Terry on this. So Terry, the affidavit places Kohberger near the house numerous times before the murder, but surviving roommates didn't know him. So if you were the prosecution, how do you explain that?
Well, a couple things here. First of all, if he's near the house, but outside the house, what the prosecution is going to have to argue is he was casing the house. He was going around trying to figure out what are the entrances, what are the exits, how can I get in? So that's one possible explanation for his being there and the victims not knowing him because he never entered the house. But as we saw in those clips, there were multiple parties at the house apparently, and there were noise complaints. So it could very well be that he was inside the house because those cell towers put him in that area. If he's in the house and there are lots of strangers, then perhaps we just don't know whether or not any of the victims literally ran into him. There could have been 100 people in there, and they could be all people from the school, and they don't know everyone who is in that school. So I think they would have to basically say they didn't run into him, and the prosecution is going to have to prove that that was what exactly happened. He might have been in the house, but the victims didn't see him.
You know, if he was in there, he just would stand out. He's older, he looks different. So, Brian, let's go back to that hearing that's on Thursday. What should we expect from that?
Yeah, going from arrest to an actual trial can sometimes be a long, tedious process full of procedural steps. I'm expecting in this status update, the judge is going to want to get the ball rolling because don't forget, Kohberger has a right to a speedy trial. I'm expecting maybe a plea of not guilty and moving forward an expectation of an indictment through a grand jury and then discovery that's going to be handed back and forth between the two parties.
All right, we'll wait and see. When we come back, social media addiction. Anyone with kids knows it is a real thing and it can cause a lot of problems. Well, now plaintiffs are lumping their grievances together to go after big tech. A new lawsuit is consolidating more than 100 cases involving huge social media platforms that we all know: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok. Families say these apps are really bad for children. Lawyers involved with the case are comparing the legal filing to the fight against tobacco and opioids. They're going up against tech giants, big tech giants, to try to find liability. Social media users and those suing on their behalf say that sites like Instagram are designed to be addictive while exposing kids and teens to self-harm and eating disorders and other mental health problems. In fact, just last week, Seattle Public Schools also filed suit against big tech social media companies, saying their misconduct has been a, quote, substantial factor in causing a youth mental health crisis. In 2021, a Facebook whistleblower testified that Facebook knew its platform was harmful to certain groups like teens, but just targeted them anyway. Another app that's making headlines are ones that companies use to track their employees' locations. A man in Florida says that he called out sick from his job at a tow company and then went and put out an application at a competitor. When his employer saw that his name popped up on the tracking software, they fired him. Gary Leedy says he knew the app called Towbook was always tracking his location. Leedy says it was a company requirement that he have it be on his personal phone, that he not make any changes to the settings. Now, the company disputes that, but Leedy says he had been excused from work for the sick day and was therefore on personal time, so it shouldn't have mattered where he was on the tracking software. I'll bring in Brian and Terry. Brian, employer firing you based on tracking your whereabouts, that seems like a pretty serious issue. He has to have some sort of case.
Yeah, so the headline seems big, but in this case, I would say don't let the headline confuse the actual facts of the case. The case itself, he's lying, saying that he's sick, and he's going to a competitor to try to pick up an application to hand in a job. Now, he and all employees know they can turn off this app that doesn't track them, but he left it on, and the company isn't going to a computer and searching them. They're searching all of their employees to make sure that they're making deliveries at time, and they are passively watching and see him going to a competitor. He doesn't have a case. But the issue of employers having more information and breaching our privacy just by virtue of working there happens. I have a cell phone. My company can track me because I have my emails going to here. They have to have access to my personal phone and also my health. This is the first time we've ever had to tell our employers about our health and vaccination status. So there is a fear of losing some privacy, but in this case, I don't think it's valid.
Brian, you may not know this. I am tracking you. I know about where you are at all times. Don't worry about it. We'll talk about it off air. Terry, I want to go back to the other lawsuit. So you mentioned to me that the plaintiffs that are filing actions against these social media companies, that they may face an uphill battle. What did you mean by that?
Well, this is a product liability case. In fact, there are multiple cases across the country, and they've been consolidated in this multi-district litigation. But it's stretching what product liability really means. Usually it's a defective product, and there's going to be injury that's caused from that defective product. It can either be negligence or strict liability or even a warranty for that matter. But here, the defective product is because it was marketed to these individuals, particularly teens. And is that really defective? And it's causing addictive behavior. But is that really the fault of the company who manufactured these social platforms? So I think it's stretching it, and I think it's going to be very difficult to prove that because you're addicted to it, you've been injured by it.
By the way, shout out to our producers for that amazing B-roll. I mean, that is social media kids just doing whatever they do on their phones. Brian, Terry, thanks everybody. Thanks everybody for watching The Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.